Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. I'm your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated, Hondo Carpenter. Welcome down to beautiful South, muggy, hot Miami, where tomorrow the Raiders will take on the Dolphins. So much to talk about with the Raiders coming out of the bye week, John. Holistic changes. They moved three guys. Joe Philbin to the offensive line. He's one of the best offensive minds in all the National Football League. Great move. Scotty Turner goes to offensive coordinator. He has the experience, but then they bring in his dad, Norv, as an advisor. I love it. There's not a lot of changes you can make in the middle of the season. The Raiders saw that last year. I really like these moves, though. I think it tells us a lot. I talked about that on Wednesday night. I think it tells us a lot about the Raiders, the fact that they're just not content to tank and see what happens. I think that they deserve some credit for that. But your thought right now on the state of the Raiders?
Well, you talk about those changes that were made. I think it also gives them a chance to really get a good feel for evaluating what they have and evaluating the possibility of development. Norv Turner has been around a very long time. He's got a very, very strong record coaching offense. His opinion still has some clout. Joe Philbin's record is pretty extensive too. A fantastic assistant coach, interesting head coaching experience, but he knows what he's talking about. So you're getting guys in there who really are going to help them understand and evaluate what they have and maybe what they need to put together when they get the pieces out on the table and figure out what they need next. It'll be interesting to see how hard the guys play. It was interesting to see that they had another meeting, timing wise, almost like the one last year, but it sounds like it was a significantly different tone. So now they're going all the way east and they're going to face a team that is, look, they surprised a lot of people with the amount of juice they came out with against the Rams last week. They really did. All eyes on Tua, because at this point, every game could be his last. The Raiders got to take care of the Raiders business first. And I think the bye reset allows them to look around, ideally look in the mirror and figure out a way to go forward. They need to figure out how to get the most out of the rest of this year and how to really know what they have before they turn the page on 2025.
I'm going to say this to you, John. I haven't really addressed the team meeting because everybody I've talked to said that while there was a meeting, it was not construed accurately. So I'm still digging to get the accuracy of it. I do not believe it was as acrimonious as it was made to sound. I don't. I actually. I mean, don't have enough details to talk about it publicly, but everyone I talked to actually said they thought it was productive. They thought it was good. And these are people who've told me when they didn't think meetings were good, so I believe them. But anyways, but I agree with you. I think I talked about this on Wednesday, but when you look at an owner who said, "Fine, fire people, I'll pay them. Go get me some other guys. Let's go. Let's put you got a head coach willing to make changes, not just getting along to get along." I think these are all signs of whether they're a good team or not. You can certainly make an argument either way, but the fact is they're not a team that's tanked or quit, and I think that says a lot about their character.
Yeah, you want your team to turn over the rocks. And how many coaches in the NFL would have liked to have made changes but were told they couldn't by owners or by GMs? I think it's probably in the dozens. And then on the other end, how many owners make moves ready, fire, aim, if you will, before thinking about, oh, is this the best idea? So I would be encouraged as a Raider fan that they're continuing to try to make it right and they're turning over the rocks. And I'd be encouraged by the people that they brought in, the eyeballs and the skill that they brought in. These are not up and coming guys. Hey, maybe let's give this guy a shot. These are masters at their craft in Norv Turner and Philbin to evaluate what they've got. At some point, that's going to start to pay off. I think it starts to pay off when you see guys that were undrafted or very low drafted that turn into successful starters and more. And those things take a little bit of time to do. I know Raider fans are beyond frustrated about it, but they take a little time. And I think hopefully the bye week and the meeting, the get together, whatever, hopefully it gives them a chance to really put behind what's happened in the season so far and find out what kind of hunger do we have to go be the best team we can be, starting in a fun environment, a muggy environment in Miami?
John, I got a text from an NFL executive, and it someone with no connection to the Raiders. But after AP made all of the changes, it said, I know I'm paraphrasing, but I read it on the air the other night, but I know you want to be fair. Then I think Mark Davis deserves a lot of credit. He could have told them no changes and made the team tank out. I, I get accused unfairly of people saying that I shill for Mark Davis. I don't. I just think he's doing a lot right. And I think the guy, he's come out, he's admitted what he doesn't know, and he is willing to spend whatever he's got to spend. And I think the fact, if you're a Raider fan looking for encouragement, I think one of the biggest encouragements is the fact that they're still willing to spend money and make changes and do whatever they got to do to make it work. That's not the case. That's not reality with a lot of NFL franchises.
No, there are still some NFL franchises that are really more interested, primarily interested in the business success of the franchise versus the competitive success. Maybe less than in some of the past, but we're seeing those teams and seeing those decisions made where maybe we're just going to sit on our hands and, well, we could go try to make a move for this guy or that guy, or maybe we should replace this coach, but we're going to go ahead and ride out the season. I'm curious whether there will be any more fire sales or any more extensive staff changes. I don't think there will. I do not think anybody will match what the Raiders have done in that area. And it's not so much trying to give Mark Davis credit or Mark Davis criticism. You're just trying to evaluate what's going on. If you look at it from a big perspective, across the 32, there's not a lot of owners doing some of those things. And there's also not a lot of owners with the now involvement of Tom Brady and Richard Seymour. I think we'll hopefully see their influence and some of their matter already in those decisions. They are now in the building, if you will. They are now in the lexicon. And that can only help versus some franchises that have owners from industries that have nothing to do with football who seem to stick their nose in it. And you know what that smells like.
Sure do. John, I don't know if you caught it, but what spot was that? Washington Commanders game. Did you see the spot? Please help me.
Saw it live. I don't get it now. What's going on? Not good. A lot of people who are Steeler fans and Commander fans probably reeled off all the silly stuff about the NFL and officials and this and that. Then they see this play where it's very clear the reception occurs and the guy is down here, but they spot the ball there. Where are the answers? They're not there yet. Very strange. Very little commentary about it on networks that cover the NFL. I don't think there's been any kind of answer from the officials and very little noise about this. This is one of those that I expect somebody to pop on a Sunday pregame show with some more information about it. It really doesn't make any sense to me. I saw it live. I didn't understand it. They're doing some kind of review after. They're not reviewing where the spot was. This is a horrible look for the NFL. This cannot happen. Whether the eye in the sky, the off-field official that we want, and or New York, they can't let this happen again. This spot was so determinative in the outcome of that game, which was a Mike Tomlin special. The problem is all it did would play into the worst of the worst conspiracy ideas or some kind of like, what in the world is going on with the officials? This is a mistake that should not happen, cannot happen, will not happen when the NFL catches up, if not leads by way of technology. Let's hope it doesn't cost the Commanders anything they should have earned or deserved. I am looking for an answer. Others are looking for an answer. How do you get a spot that wrong and not fix it? It was a scratcher of the head.
I'll tell you how bad it was. I was in Kauai, and I were at the resort. I came down, and I'd met so many Raider fans out there. It was really amazing. And my waiter says to me, Mr. Carpenter, did you see the cheating? And I'm like, what? I mean, that's not a good look for the NFL.
No,
I don't think anybody cheated. I want to make that clear too.
they just
But it's
didn't
not a good
care.
look.
I mean, it was like, wait a second. We see the guy turning, and we see where his body is. The ball belongs here, and you guys put it there. It was for those of us who were at a very famous college football game between Russell Wilson and Kirk Cousins that ended with a Hail Mary and a 50-50 ball that a player caught and twisted to go over the goal line. It was the opposite of that one. I happened to be standing right behind that one when Keith Nickel caught that ball and turned and went over the goal line. Shirley couldn't see it from where we were. They go up to the booth and it's clear he turned over. They correct the call. This Commanders and Steelers game, it's still there on tape. Somebody from the NFL has to either say, hey, we blew it. Here's what happened. Sorry about that. Here's what we're going to try to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. Or this is a story that will grow legs. And there's just been way too little said about it, too much suspicion about it this late in the week. This is one that goes away when the NFL does the right thing with technology, brings technology into the sport so we can at least get the ball spotted correctly and not look ridiculous in a massively, massively close game.
Hard Knocks off-season shadows are still looming this time for the Giants. Talk about this one.
Some of you folks saw the shows we we were here talking about in the summer when we looked at the off-season New York Giants, and they looked like they were shopping for groceries without a list. They didn't look like they knew they did not look organized. They didn't look organized, to be fair. But what they also looked was hamstrung by the contract they had with Daniel Jones. And the reason I say they look like that is because they told you that on the show. You heard the general manager and the coach talking about it. It's in the building. The giant Daniel Jones elephant was in the building. So whether or not he was qualified and prepared to be a starter, a successful starter in the NFL, didn't matter. They're stuck with him. We also talked about the moves Brian Daboll made that he said, hey, he's seen what happened with coaches in the past stuck with quarterbacks. Pat Shurmur, for example, he knew what happened there to the Giants. So he says, you know what? I'm going to call the plays. He called the plays. Now it looks like he's going to call the shots and throw Daniel Jones into the bench where he probably belongs. And the reason is he's not a very good starting quarterback and maybe isn't even ready to be a starting quarterback yet. Hard Knocks offseason with the New York Giants is going to go down in history as one of the most exposing hard knocks of all. And nobody will ever give that access in that offseason show again because of what's happened with the Giants and specifically with Daniel Jones. Brian Daboll is there to win games. That's the NFL. That's the NFL mandate. He owes 52 other guys on his team the best opportunity to win each week at the most critically important position. The Giants organization, on the one hand, has paid Daniel Jones all this money and tied half an arm behind his back, Joe Shine and Brian Daboll. But on the other hand, they got to put their best foot forward to win each week. This is interesting. I don't have any issue with Daniel Jones. I really don't. I think he was not put in a position to succeed. I don't think he's ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL yet. And his numbers are starting to add up. And as they add up and as he gets to a 30 start number, I don't know what the future holds for Daniel Jones. But what I see is Brian Daboll wants to make sure that he is not caught in that Daniel Jones undertow, in that contract undertow.
100% agree with you. Let's go to another subject. The crashing Seahawks, they've lost 5 of 6, and they cut their leading tackler.
Folks like this show because we go around the NFL from a Raider perspective. That does include Seattle. If you've been seeing recent weeks, you've seen somebody that believed in Seattle. Bit it hard. Not as hard as Tyrell Dodson. He was the leading tackler on the Seahawks. They've lost 5 out of 6. He got cut. Welcome to the NFL. Not for long. So month and a half ago, sitting there thinking, man, we can win this division this year in Seattle. We can get a home playoff game. We may even have a chance to make some noise, do some things, get deep, if not have a chance to play for the Super Bowl. Tyrell Dodson is cut before mid-November. That's an interesting way to try to right the ship that is sinking. And that is a massive message to the locker room that this is not the same old Seahawks. It's a whole new regime. It'll be interesting to hear how and why that happened. It'll be more interesting to see if it actually does any good for that football team. It's one thing to cut your leading tackler in the middle of November. It's another thing if you do it and nothing good comes out of it. Mike Macdonald and company sticking their neck out a little bit, trying to pop their way out of a bad skid at the wrong time in a wildly competitive NFC West.
John, the Cowboys are imploding in public. It's horrible. Multiple bad decisions. I say horrible. I'm not a fan. I'm actually enjoying it.
Yeah.
Multiple bad decisions. Jerry Jones is just not at the top of his game. They've got to sign Micah Parsons. They have so many problems on this team in so many places. How bad are the Cowboys right now?
They're bad enough, I think, to deny the root problem that has rotted their team from the inside out. They came off as a team a little too self-interested in the offseason. And for those guys self-interested in their contracts, I don't think they appreciated what they did to the rest of the guys in their room. As a result, they're not getting the best effort, focus, care, commitment from the other 53. As we all know, at the pro football level, very hard for one guy to somehow win the play, let alone win the game. You need numbers. There's 11 on 11. Not going to have 2 or 3 guys just pull the thing out of the sky. So you start to see some issues in Dallas. And now you've got an owner who's too proud to say, hey, you know what? We got it wrong on this. Let's drop the curtain thing for the football game. Why the sun is at a ridiculous angle, for half the season. He can't admit that. I think he won't admit that. I think they'll fix it in the offseason. You got a star linebacker who has the gall to start talking about the head coach in any shape or form that's not supportive. He may be 100% right, but that's not going to help the Cowboys in 2024 win a thing. It will help 53 guys say, you know what? Those 3 guys wanted their bag and do their thing. I don't really care. I need to turn it down a little bit to preserve myself for my next year, for my contract year, for my next job, for my next team. The Cowboys are going in nearly 53 different directions. Was their team as talented as some people wanted to believe before the year? Of course not. Micah Parsons is super talented. I don't know what he's thinking here. How is this going to help him in his next phase of his career? If he's playing for Deion Sanders, Bill Belichick, anybody, Dan Quinn, whoever, this isn't going to help him. This is a bad move by Parsons. This is a bad year for the Cowboys. Prescott's done for the year. I think worse days are ahead for Dallas. Jerry Jones is the guy. The buck does stop there. I don't even know if he had the 2 best general managers in the league together right now, and they could fix this. There looks like a cultural rot in the middle of the Cowboys where it's like a tree that's looks really strong from the outside, looks really healthy, and inside of it started to rot, and now the whole thing's getting ready to go down. Micah Parsons, what in the world are you doing saying anything about your head coach, Mike McCarthy? And Mike McCarthy, do you really need this? It would be refreshing if Mike McCarthy was like, you know what? I'm out of here. You know why? Because I don't want to coach this team anymore. I don't want to coach these players because of what they've done. Now, if he does that, that's obviously the end of his NFL coaching career. But we may be coming close to that day anyway. For an incredible life story for a guy that started at the toll booths on the PA Turnpike and had the highest highs in pro football, why does he want to come back to this place again another year? I don't think so.
So, John, last question, then I want to get into our fearsome foursome picks, but expectations of the Raiders. I expect them to continue to fight. I have no idea how much better they can get. We saw them get much better last year after the break. I think that's a definite possibility, but this is one of those I got to tap the brakes and see it, but I like everything they did in the bye week.
I like the approach of I got to tap the brakes and see it. You look at their schedule from here and you see the obvious big one with the Chiefs. It looks like they're going to have a chance to defeat the Chiefs when they look like they will probably be undefeated, until then. So that stands out to you. You've got also, of course, the Chargers game at the end of the year, and you've got some energy, some juice that's coming off the bye. It'll be interesting to see Max Crosby helps set the tone. The motor, 100% all game long. I want to see how guys follow him. Do they look good for a quarter, for a half? Do they look good for all 60 minutes? Do they do things? Do they beat themselves? Those are some things that I want to see. So I expect a good bit of juice this week. Always juice for Denver. There's going to be juice for Kansas City. And then after that, let's see. I thought the Raiders would have a better record after the bye than before the bye when we looked at it before the season. So I'm on the same wavelength with you, but maybe not necessarily for the same reasons. It will be interesting. And again, nobody wants to see a bad ending to Tua Tagovailoa's career, but every single game for the rest of his career, that's probably going to be the lead or the number 2 story. Everybody is watching what happens to him. And it'll be interesting to see what happens at 1:00. It's going to be early. Raiders will be ready. I expect a lot of juice out of the gate.
I do too. All right, John, fearsome foursome. How are we doing?
Well, you're still up 1 thanks to the what in the world happened there in Houston. First of all, I don't know who put those uniforms together, but let's not have them put those together again.
They were ugly.
Darn thing. Hello, you have white to trip. I mean, I'm not Mr.
I was watching the game in Kauai. We were sitting at on a beach at a restaurant at the resort watching the game. That was kind of cool, playing cards. And I'm like, who are they playing? And someone goes, how can you ask that? Well, I know who they're playing, but the uniform, that's why these uniforms, some of them are awesome, and I like them more than the regular uniforms. Some of them are trash. Those were trash. All right, as you know, we were called out last week that people said I was letting you pick first.
Yes.
I'm picking first the rest of the time. Here we go.
Yeah. I would like to pick the Commanders and the Eagles, but that game's already over because I felt like I could have got that one right. So we got to start with the trap game. The Falcons fell into a trap loss last week. They are going to the Broncos, who of course lost on a blocked field goal. Who rebounds? Mile High, Atlanta at Denver.
Broncos.
I like the Broncos as well. Now, listen, Atlanta is about 1,000 feet up. That's not 5,280 feet. This is a tough place to play when you're not used to it, of course. The best rivalry in pro sports for a long while was the Red Wings and Avalanche, no question. And then it changed. The best rivalry in pro sports was Baltimore at Pittsburgh, year after year. The best game that basically practically the Super Bowl a couple times. And you know what? It still matters. It's still a little transcendent. It's awesome. Baltimore at Pittsburgh.
Baltimore.
Oh, absolutely Baltimore, especially after what happened last week with the Steelers and their 1-point win, which you take your hat off to them. You question the spot. I like the backslide here. There won't be a backslide in the entertainment value. And obviously the game of the week, which is Kansas City at Buffalo. Best of the best. Premium blend. Bills hosting Los Chiefs.
Buffalo.
You like Buffalo at home? Why do I feel like this is the sucker play? Why do I feel like this is the sucker play? Did you see,
Johnny?
Did you see the news this week about Kansas City maybe getting healthy? I'm like, oh, they don't need more. If they get healthy, I think what they should do is really slow the rollout of those guys that are coming back. I will take the Chiefs. I will take the Chiefs.
Thank you for giving me another one, brother. Johnny, we'll see you next Saturday again.
Well,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say we got one more. It's a real quick one. Seattle at San Francisco. Is there any chance to stop the skid? This would be a massive surprise. San Francisco.
Big time, San Fran. See you next Saturday, buddy. Oh, John, tell everybody where to find you on social media.
At JP Spartan.
At JP Spartan, right there is where you're going to find him on X, formerly known as Twitter, or as Jim Rome calls him, Johnny in East Lansing.